Hey everybody, welcome to the Billy Rickman Show. And this morning I've got a special guest all the way from the USA, one of the fastest growing companies, especially in the gym space, co-CEO and founder of Gym Launch and author of the Gym Launch Secrets book. Welcome to the show, Alex Hormozi.
Thank you for having me. Super happy to be here.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Look, I can't exactly pinpoint exactly when I started following you online, but I think it came about through the whole Russell Brunson thing, and then I think you just started coming up. And you know, it was definitely the ads that got me, because at the time I was starting to grow my own sort of business and looking into different ways of advertising. And the ads that you've got, maybe you can explain where they came from and a little bit about the success you've had from them. The ones that specifically just had all the gym people doing their workouts, then it was like the meme format where it's like 100 or 500 new members at $3.99.
Yeah.
I think that's what hooked me. I was like, well, what is going on here? And even though the gym isn't my space, I was just like, this is insane.
It's a lot of members.
A lot of members, yeah. So before we go into that, tell us a little bit about what you do, because a lot of my audience obviously are totally different industries to what you're normally talking to. So tell my audience anyway exactly what it is you do.
So I'll try and keep it more general to brick and mortar service, because that way it'll apply to virtually everyone that's on here, and just kind of small business ownership. But essentially we look at the gym and how we can grow the business in three ways. I'm sure you already know them, but how can we get more customers? Number one. Second is how can we increase average ticket, or by cross sells and upsells or increasing prices by adding value or services. And then how can we get people to buy more times, right? Within the context of a gym, that's retention, right? They buy this month, they buy the next month, buy the month after that. I had a small chain of gyms. I had 6 that I grew off cash flow. And so that was part of the reason that I got brought on stage the very first time. So I've spoken at Funnel Hackers twice. The first time I spoke, and I think to this date, I'm the only person who's ever actually been a non-internet business that spoke on stage. But the first time I got up there, I had no internet business to sell. I had no information products. I had no coaching. I had no trainings. He's just like, dude, you're really successful using funnels. Can you talk about it? And I was like, sure. Okay. And so basically my claim to fame was that I would open each facility on day one at full capacity. And so for a gym, that's kind of unheard of. And so essentially I was like 23, 24, and I would sign a lease. I'd put $5,000 into a bank account, and I would run ads for a month. And in a month, I'd sign up 200 people at $500, $600 a head. And, I like week one, I already had it, like I had it totally planned out. So like week one, I'd make 25 grand, and I would buy I'd buy the equipment, and then I'd paint the walls. And then, week 2, I'd put the floors in. Week 3. And so I'm selling while people are building the gym around me off the cash that's coming in from people who are buying the gym that doesn't exist.
You're jumping off the cliff and kind of flying on the way down and figuring out how to fly.
Exactly. And so that's how I was able to open a new location every 6 months. And I was 20, whatever, I didn't know what I was doing. But I was able to open them at full capacity. And by week 6, the recurring revenue would cash flow the business. And so that was what I did. And so that was why they originally invited me on stage to talk about it. And through a series of unfortunate events, basically my mom got really sick. I flew out, I left my gyms for 6 months completely unattended. And they did fine, but being away long enough, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to, like, being pulled out for so long, I was like, I don't know if I want to go back. And so at this time, my wife was with my current wife. She was not my wife at the time. I was like, why don't we, well, I'll try not to, fuck it. I'll tell you the story. So, so basically I'm out there with my mom, and she's sick. And so a friend of mine's like, hey, do you think you could help this gym out? I know your gyms are good. And I know he's a friend of mine. He's really struggling. I was like, sure, of course. And so if you've ever been with somebody who's been sick, I only had 2 hours a day of visiting hours. So the rest of my day, I'm like losing my mind. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just got to keep myself busy or I'm going to go nuts. And so anyways, I called this guy up. His name was Josh Price. He's still a client today. He's the first client. And I was like, hey, Josh, do you have a marketing budget? What is your marketing budget? And he said, I don't have one. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so how about this? I'll spend my money, and then we can do like a split or something. I'll help you out, run a little campaign, get some people in. He's like, that's awesome. But I'm only available between 12 and 2, and I've got my 2-year-old and my 6-month-old. Is that going to be a problem? And I was like, yes, that's going to be a problem. People are going to buy between 12 and 2 for fitness. And then finally I was like, fine. Do you have like a t-shirt that says, CrossFit, 1, 2, 3 on it? And he was like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to work your front desk. And so I went and I worked his front desk, and I ran the campaign, and I spent my money, and I doubled his gym in a week. And so we signed up, he had 70 current members and I signed up 70 in a week. And he was like, what just happened? And for me, the deal that I had made at the time, we don't run the business this way anymore, but the first version of the business was I'd go in, I'd spend my money, I would sell, and I'd collect all the upfront money, and then they would get the continuity that would come on the back. And so there was no risk to them. They did no work, and they would just get a bunch of free customers and they would sign them up on the back. So, I mean, it was a win-win for everyone. And for me, I was like, cool, I made 35 grand in a week. And I didn't do anything. I mean, not that I didn't do anything, but like for a week's worth of hustling, I was like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I was like, I wonder if anyone else would be into this thing. And within 2 weeks, we were booked out for 8 months. And, and then I was like, shoot, we got to scale this. So within 6 weeks, hired 6 sales guys, trained them up. And so 6 weeks later, we were flying out 6 guys to 6 different locations every month. Right. And so each launch averaged $42,000 per in 21 days. And so that was with them selling. They weren't as good as me, blah, blah, blah. But I saw all this. There was tons of overhead in the business. I had flights, I had hotels, I had rental cars, I had commissions, I had ad spend, all of that. And then, what was left, it was definitely more profitable when I was just doing it on my own. So I was like, man, this business sucks to scale. And what ended up happening is within a period of a week, there were 2 gyms who basically got up in the middle of like a huge packed gym and were like, go home. Like, just refund everything. Like, I can't handle this. Like, I just can't. And it wasn't their money. It was my money. And so I'd already paid for the campaigns, everything. And so I lost like $150,000 in like a week. And I looked at Leila and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, and so I ended up selling my 6 gyms before I was doing this, or while I was doing the first part. So it was just like, I'm selling gyms off while I'm like, it was nuts. So anyways.
How long ago was this? Just context. How long ago was
this? So I sold my gyms. All of the gyms were sold by November of 2016. Yes. November.
Right, so we're talking 2.5 years ago, like 3 years ago.
Not a long time ago.
Yeah.
Sold all the gyms then. And then we started doing the launches to like 6 locations at a time, January of 2017. And we did that for 4 months. And then May was going to be the last month that we were going to do it. And what happened is I was like, you know what, after that whole refund thing, I was like, I don't want to mess with this anymore. Like, we know how to sell fitness. We know how to market. Let's just sell online. You be the face and I'll be behind the scenes this time. And you can do Queen Transformation. So Queen Transformation happened. And we started doing like $1,000 a day and just doing sales over the phone. And I was like, great, we can take, at this point we had 8 sales guys. I was like, we can bring them all back in and then we'll do 8,000 a day. I was like, cool. Like, this business, we don't have to deal with anybody. Great, let's do it. And so we had 8 gyms that were supposed to launch the next month. And all those guys I had to call up and I was like, hey, I remember the first one was Chris Barnett. I was like, hey, Chris, we can't do this. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that business anymore. And he's like, dude, we need this. Like, we're going to close our doors. Like, I need this. And I was like, it's all right, bro. Like, I'm not gonna and finally kept going on the call and I was like, all right, fine. I was like, I will show you how to do it. I was like, but I will not do it for you. Like, I'm not flying out and saving your ass if you can't sell. Like, I'm not doing it. I was just, after you sell, it's just bodies at that point. I mean, just like we're doing 20 appointments a day, face to face. I mean, it just
a lot.
It's killer.
Yeah.
You get really good at sales, but it's killer. Yeah. It's soul crushing. So anyways, I was like, it's going to be X. And he was like, okay. And I was like, really? I got on the phone. I called the next guy and same conversation. And then he was like, how much? And I was like, X plus $2,000. And he was like, okay. And I was like, huh. And so at the end of the day, then I called the next guy, same thing. And I added another $2,000. He said yes. And I was like, holy shit. And so one day I made $60,000. And I looked at Leila and I was like, babe, I think we're still in the gym business. I was like, I just think we were doing it wrong. And so over the next 48 hours, I built everything that was the original gym launch. I didn't sleep. And then, because they were like, when do I get the logins? And I was like, Monday morning. So I sold everything on a Friday. And I was like, it'll be Monday morning first thing. And I was like, what am I going to do? So everything. Luckily, I already had all the stuff because we'd systematized it at that point to a really high degree because we were launching them all over the place. I put it in and then the first gyms that did it all, made like $50,000 in their first like 3 weeks. And it was a lot more than they paid me. And they were like, shoot, man, I got all these people. What do I do? How do I keep them? How do I scale my team? Like all that other stuff. And so I was like, well, if you want, I can just teach you the rest of the business and you can join Gym Legacy. And so they were like, cool. And so that's what happened. And so that was 24 months ago. Exactly.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you tell the story. It's almost like when an old company CEO tells a story about 20 years ago when we started this company, you know, especially we were just quickly chatting off air beforehand and we were talking about revenue, right? And so to give people some perspective about the rapid growth that you've had, I put a post up yesterday. I said, anyone have any questions they want me to ask Alex? And heaps of people DM me and one specific person was super intrigued about how did you grow so rapidly without bankrupting the business or without going nuts, either way.
Yeah,
which tends to happen, right?
It's a great question.
Yeah. So first of all, what are your numbers right now? How quickly have you grown the company?
So this last month we did over 4 million, like 4.1 or something like that.
US. So my market's Australian. So yeah, we're talking 6 million a month.
That's like 25 million Australian, right?
Yeah. Our inflation is insane, right? Yeah. A can of Coke's $150 over here.
Right. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. And so going back to the question, how did you do it? One of the things I'm super fascinated about in business is the psychology of business, about why some people make it and some people don't. So like following you online, listening to your podcast, watching your videos, reading blogs and articles about you and things like that, and even chatting to you now for about 5 minutes, I can see you have a certain level of charisma and confidence and well, you know what I mean? Like sometimes those things come into it, right? How much comes down to the hard work of it, the strategy, the knowledge, or the comprehension? How much does it come down to just the person as an individual?
Well, I think one goes hand in hand with the other. And so like, I've just been I recently read through the book Grit by Angela Duckworth in like one sitting. I read half the book and I was like, all right, I get the point. So, but basically they just looked at like super successful individuals and they were able to tease out, like, cause it wasn't intelligence. We already know that IQ doesn't really do it. EQ is like a little bit better, but like, they're like, what is it to predict, someone becoming, being able to achieve massive things? And they just call it a grit, just grit. And they have an index for it and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically like, how long will you hold on and keep pushing when things suck? And so I think that grit is what creates the skill level that then creates the achievement, because the simplified version of it, and I'm trying not to paraphrase the book, but it articulated it really well. And it was just that like within the equation of achievement, there's two pieces. There's talent times effort equals skill, right? Wow. And then skill times effort equals achievement. And so effort counts twice. And so that's kind of like talent is only 1/4 of that whole piece when effort is counted 2 times. And so like, and for me, it's really encouraging because the amount that somebody who paints consistently for 30 years can paint versus somebody who's talented at painting and only paints for 6 months, the person who's been painting for 30 years is better by a mile, even if they have 1/4 of the talent. And I think that a lot of people put too much weight on how talented or how smart they perceive themselves to be, rather than what their actual potential is based on actually just consistently doing something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people who graduated from Harvard and Ivy League schools, didn't amount to anything. Yeah,
and so the original question was, how much do I think strategy and hard work contributed to the rapid growth?
Yeah.
So the strategy came from the fact that like, this isn't my first business. This is my 7th business. And so, you learn things each time, and the gyms were one of the, I count that as like, one. And so like, there's a lot of little failed ventures that happened in between that were valuable lessons. And I think that's kind of the great aspect, is like, you just keep going, because some people just go back to get a job. And so it's like, you just keep going and you keep collecting these scars that eventually amount to better decisions based on experience. And so like right now, people consider me a sales, whatever, like that I'm good at selling. It's more so that I'm good at teaching people how to sell. But I also did 4,000 one-on-one closes. And so like, is it that I'm really talented, or that like, I've just done it a lot of times, and it would be unreasonable for me to not be like, if I weren't decent at it at this point, like you'd be like, what is wrong with you?
Well, even to use your industry as a metaphor with the gym, like, it's the same thing, right? The guy who goes and does 1,000 bench presses, or the guy who goes and does 20 bench presses, the guy's going to be stronger who's done 1,000.
Right. It doesn't matter what your genetics are. Like, for the who knows?
Yeah.
There's probably some animals that exist somewhere that are just, pro rugby players or whatever. But like for the most part, you're going to be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so when I did an interview with Alex Sharp, and he said that you and I were similar in a way because we were both passionate about failure in our industry. And so my industry, one of the reasons why, so my background is I was in the military for 8 years. I kind of fell into the hair, beauty, cosmetics sort of industry, started a franchise business, grew up for 8 years, sold it off, and started exactly the same thing as you had. Someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm struggling. Can you help me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's just, see what we can do." And got really good results. And then they told somebody else and it kind of snowballed. And eventually I went, you know what, I'm just going to sell my franchise and do this full time because I really loved helping people and seeing results.
Yeah.
And much like yourself, I'd already systemized a lot of it anyway. And I could just flow it in. And one of the things when I first started coaching that became really apparent to me is the amount of failures in the industry. How many people were in love with the industry and they go, I'm going to start a business in the industry. They start it and they never transition from technician to business owner. And you speak to them a year later, they're pulling their hair out. They've got no relationships at home, no money, and they're totally out of love with the industry. They feel like they're chained and shackled to their business. And I was like, something has to change here. This is not a good direction for the industry. And so Alex tells me Alex Sharpton tells me that's a similar kind of way the gym industry is.
It's like exactly like that. I would say that, it's like restaurants is number one and then gyms are number two for the highest failure of businesses. So, and I think typically it's just for the same reasons. People are like, I like cooking, I'll make a restaurant. And people are like, I really like fitness and health, I'll open a gym. And the skill set that it takes to like fitness and health couldn't be further apart from actually running a profitable gym. And so, and to be really, it's funny you said that, like, when I had my gyms, I honestly thought everyone was doing what I was doing. So I didn't think that the things that we put in place were really revolutionary by any stretch of the imagination. So I was like, so we, I sign a lease and run some ads and fill the gym,
Everyone must be doing this.
Yeah. And I was like, and then, halfway through I convert 3 out of 4 into a year-long membership. I was like, and then we're good for the year. Like it's, it seemed simple, but a lot of things is like, you don't know what you don't, it's like unknown unknowns. You don't know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So that resonates. But yeah, we want to help.
We'll be right back after this short break. Running a salon is hard work. You have to know how to get clients, keep clients, make sales, look after your team, do training, manage budgets, create rosters, and the list goes on. With so many resources available to teach people how to cut hair or do facials better, there is, however, a real lack of resources to help and teach salon owners how to run a successful business. This is why so many people who open their own salon do so with big dreams and big goals, but soon become tired, unhappy, and out of money. Salon GrowthCon was created to give salon owners the tools they need to not only survive in business, but to seriously thrive. Over 2 huge days, you get to learn from 23 industry leaders and experts who will teach you everything you need to know about marketing, sales, leadership, management, and so much more. US TV celebrity Tabitha Coffey from Tabitha Takes Over headlines this huge event on the Gold Coast, and this is the one event not to be missed for anybody wanting to succeed in the hair and beauty industry. Abundance awaits every single salon owner if they want it. You just need to learn the skills and know-how to make it happen. So come and join Tabitha Coffey, myself, and 23 other speakers, along with 1,500 salon owners for one weekend that will change your life. If you haven't yet got your tickets, head to www.salongrowthcon.com. That's www.salongrowthcon.com to get your tickets before they're all gone.
With the gym industry, though, it's funny you say you don't know what you don't know, and it's funny when you look into somebody else's industry and you think that they've got it so much easier. And some of the things I see some of my gym owner friends, and they're doing particularly well. But it's true, like you focus on the people who are doing well, right? You don't look at all those ones that aren't on the road anymore when you drive down. You're like, you don't notice that they've gone. You notice the ones that are consistent, they're there all the time. You're like, well, they must be doing something well. And And I look at gym owners, I think to myself, they've got an advantage over my industry because typically when you look in, you say, well, they must be self-disciplined, they must be self-motivated, they've got high energy, all of these things. And so is that true or is it not true? Are those characteristics a good characteristic?
So that like I would have an advantage in our business because gym owners are more disciplined and more motivated, et cetera, versus coaching salon.
I guess so. Yeah.
Gym owners are hardworking as shit. So
that's what I was imagining.
I mean, because also in the fitness industry, you know, it's super common to work from 4 a.m. until 9 p.m. Like it's normal. And you work 6 days a week because your first client, your first session starts at 5 and your last client ends at 9. And so you're basically always working. And sometimes you get the middle of the day off, but you're so exhausted that it's really difficult to like do lots of productive stuff. And so sometimes you try and work out and you get a half-ass workout and you're the person who's supposed to be the fit person. And you know what I mean? And so then it just starts snowballing. And the only day you get off is like Sunday. And then you're really just meal prepping that day for the rest of the week that you can eat out of Tupperwares all day at the gym. And so from an advantage standpoint, from a work ethic side, yes. I mean, I don't know how hard salon owners work, but I know the gym owners work their ass off.
It's not like my industry. Yeah, it's not like the people in the industry don't work hard. I think they work really hard, but I think a lot of people in my industry who'll be watching this and listening to this, they're mums, you know, and then and they have to do the kids' school runs and they're trying to figure out how to balance work and their career and their ambition with the personal life at home as well. And I think that's one of the things I hear from my clients all the time anyway, is one of the hardest things for them to try and, they have such big goals and dreams, but it's like they have this parent guilt and then they feel like they're not being a good wife and mom and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that fathers don't struggle with it the way moms do, but I would say that if I'm being candid, they probably don't struggle with it as much because there's a certain expectation for culturally, you know, that guys are going to be putting bread on the table and doing everything they can to work while, you know, wife, mom, et cetera, stays at home. I'm not saying not all of our gym owners are married, not all of our gym owners have kids, but by and large, but clientele wise, we're 80% male. So 80% of my clients are men.
We've got totally flipped industries, you and I. Like I'm 80% female, which is funny because the first 8 years of my career, I was in the military. It was like 80% male, you know, and then I went to a female dominated industry and it was totally different way to run business. But I don't really attract the, I think I repel a lot of women. the big 70s stash doesn't really help me out. I don't know about that. Speaking of the stash, I actually got one of my girls to make one up specifically so we can do the podcast today. Let's talk about the story of the mustache, because I actually saw it on your Instagram the other day. What is the story?
So there is a story. I was, you know, this was just like I was saying, I just sold, you know, a bunch of, you know, probably 30, 40 guys on launching their gym, and they did it on their own and they were super successful. And they were like, what else do you have? And I was like, well, I'll show you how to run the rest of the gym. You know, I basically, you know, at the time invented the next level of service that I hadn't quite built out yet. And so I had all the pieces, I hadn't like structured it, you know what I mean? But it just wasn't done yet. So I was like, guys, it's going to be amazing. I just haven't made it yet, but it's going to be awesome. Yeah. And everyone was like, dude, you just made me so much money. Like I'm in. And so virtually 100% of the people signed up for, at the time it was a 3-year commitment. So I said, if you do it, we'll do it for 3 years. We're going to grow for real. Right. And so the first meeting was like, you know, a mastermind, and I'm using quotes here because it's not a mastermind anymore, but we had 28 gym owners and 40 people total who came to the mastermind, right? From my higher level service, which I think at the time I was selling for like $32,000 a year. And so the day before, everyone was supposed to, you know, be at the mastermind. I had a big bushy beard, and I was going to shave to, you know, kind of look nicer or whatever. And I look out from the bathroom, you know, and I do all the weird, you know, you go from beard to like mutton chops to, you know, gunslinger to Wolverine, and you just keep going down. And then finally I had the stash, and I looked out at Leila, and she was like, oh my God, like, no. and I like looked back in the mirror and I like made a funny face. I was like, I'm gonna keep it. I was like, because I was so stressed and so nervous about the next day. Cause I was like, what if they hate it? What if they don't think it's good? You know, I had all these anxieties about it. And so like, I kind of just laughed in the mirror cause I was like, well, you got a mustache. Like you can't take yourself too seriously. And and you know, the event went really well, and it worked. And so I stuck with it. So it just reminds me every day to just not take myself too seriously, you know?
Well, yeah, I see that actually a lot in your posts. And I saw, again, obviously I was doing my due diligence on you and researching you beforehand. A lot of the stuff you've been putting out, I don't know whether or not it was just more, it's more of a focus now, but it seems like when I was looking at stuff earlier on and looking at stuff now, the stuff now is a huge focus on the fun and exciting and kid-like kind of side of the business, and just about not taking yourself too seriously. Is that something like it's just a part of you, or is that something you tried to now move into to remind yourself? Is it like a conscious thought?
That is just, I think what you're referencing is Instagram stuff, because that's usually like the behind the scenes type stuff.
Right.
And that's not necessarily for me. It's just like, that's just how we live. But I think that like life can be stressful enough as is. Like we could all be stressed if we choose to be. So
there's always something to be stressed about.
Right. There's always something to be stressed about. So it's like, I got a funny ass cat and he does ridiculous things, and, you know, Layla makes funny faces, and we try and keep it light.
Yeah. Awesome. So let me just quickly ask you then about your five, I don't know, is it the pillars or what you call them, but essentially the 5 steps of the customer journey, which is, you talk about the lead generation, the lead nurture.
Yeah. So lead gen, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, and then resell and ascension.
Yeah.
Those are, you know, and depending on the size of the business, you could also include HR and finance, but for most small business owners, they're not really, those are not like, I mean, in our business, obviously we need to have those functions, but because right now we have 125 employees right now full-time, whereas a small business owners need to concern themselves with that. So it's really like, how are we getting names? How are we generating interested parties? They're collecting data, right? What are we putting out there to generate it? From that point, how do we turn that prospect into somebody who's going to show up for a conversion conversation of some sort, which typically for a brick and mortar service business is going to be, how do I get them to schedule? How do I get them to show? Right. And then once they're there, what's the natural series of questions that's going to lead them to want to work with me, which is the sales component. Yeah. And then after that, it's like, cool. Once they make the sale, what do I need to do to absolutely blow them away? And this is kind of one of those nuances that's like a little bit more gym specific, is most of the time I teach a concept called client finance acquisition. And so the overarching picture that when you asked at the very beginning, what is the one thing that has grown the business and how do we do it without going bankrupt and all that stuff, is that client finance acquisition is how I grew my gyms. It's how I grew Gym Launch. It's how we did all of them so fast. And it's essentially, when I can put money into ads, right? I prefer to sell something expensive on the front end when someone's the most excited about it, right? Typically people will do low barrier offers on the front end, right? To try and attract more people. My opinion is when someone is excited, I can generate more revenue from that person, get more of a commitment, cover the costs of onboarding and giving an amazing experience. And then when the cost of fulfillment drops because that person knows the system, knows the work, knows how to be a good client, then at that point, I can decrease their continuity. And so most people, in my opinion, have it backwards. And so I got a decent amount of credit for saying downsell the upsell. I don't think I'm the one who invented it, but I don't. but it works well, because what happens is you're like, hey, do you want to have more of what you've just got for half price? And they're like, oh, like everything I just got was amazing, so I can get all of that for half. Like, yes, you want to stay? They're like, yeah. Rather than, hey, I just gave you everything for nothing, want to now pay for it? And they're like, maybe.
Yeah. Is it worth twice the amount? Yeah.
Right. And so we flipped it. And that's what has been able. So what happens is, if let's say, I'll give you a numbers example. So let's say you spend $100 a day on ads, right? Yep. And day one, you put $100 in, and let's say you get 10 leads, right? For $10 a piece. Right. And then from those 10 leads, you get 7 to schedule. Okay. And then from the 7 that schedule, you get 4 to show. And from the 4 that show, you get 2 to buy. Right. 20. And you're getting them to buy at $600 a piece. So you made $1,200 from your $100. Right. And so what that would look like is, let's say day 1, you spent 100, day 2, you spent 100. Now, let's say those people came in on day 2 that you spent on day 1, and then you made the sale. On day 4, you should be able to get the payments from, they would actually hit your bank account. I'm talking like real money in your bank account, right? It would take till day 4, which essentially means that I'm now down 400 because day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, but then I get my $1,200 deposit, right, from those first 2 sales.
Yeah.
At that point is when the rest of the campaign is cash flowed from sales that have happened.
So you reinject.
Right. It's a negative acquisition cost. And so now I'm making money getting new customers. And so there's really no reason to stop until you have another bottleneck. And so that's typically what happens with our guys is they will, like, acquisition no longer becomes the limiting factor in your business. Usually it becomes operations, because most people don't have the skill set to lead, don't have the skill set to manage. They're entrepreneurs. They're not organized, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so that becomes the next bottleneck. So everyone thinks it solves all their problems when in reality it just exposes the weakness of their operation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then they're like, oh my God, I have all these people coming in and no one's staying. It's like, right, your shit sucks. That's why you didn't have people to begin with, right? Now everyone just knows. So, and then, you know what I mean? And then you gotta put the process in place. Like you gotta have reach outs, you gotta have handwritten cards, you gotta have a wow package. You know what I mean? Like there's all these things that everyone's like, man, our stuff's so good. If people just knew about it, like if your stuff was so good, people would already know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not that good. And that's why you're struggling. If we're being real, you're not that good. You're just mediocre. And that's okay, but everyone else is.
Yeah, I heard you talking about Jeff Bezos's quote the other day, and it was that one where he was talking about the customers are always going to be dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but it's true, right? I hear salon owners all the time. I always ask them, one of the questions I ask is like, so tell me just what is your USP or what is your point of difference? And everybody always says, oh, my customer service. I'm like, not everybody can have a point of difference for great customer service. Your customer service is probably just the expected level of customer service. It's not exceptional.
Right.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit if I can, just to the acquisition though, because I know a lot of people who are just listening to that would be like, that's awesome, Alex. I totally understand. Let's flip it. Let's get them on the high value first, and then we can deliver a reduced price later, keep them on the program. How is it then that you get people purchasing a high dollar value amount if they don't know anything about your business in the first place? Like you want to talk about gym owners, that's fine. We can relate. That's the same to salons. Yeah. How do I get somebody to spend $600 straight off the bat when in most salon owners' eyes, they'll be like, I can't get people to pay $40 straight off the bat.
Right. So one word is sales. Yeah. I'm just being like super real with you, because there's two. So I think the biggest thing that is underestimated and underappreciated is making an amazing offer, right? So I had a mentor early on, and most people don't know who he is, but actually he's Australian, so maybe some of your people might know him. So TJ, Travis Jones, was in the gym guru space way back when. I don't know if he's doing it anymore, but and at this point, I had no gym, I had no clients, I had no nothing, and I bought a $3,000 seminar on marketing, you know. As
entrepreneurs do, right?
Right, I had no idea why.
I can't buy food, but you know what?
I can't buy food, but let me go buy a seminar. So anyways, I went there, and he was like, yeah, just sell them. And I was like, I'd never even sold anyone before on anything. So I was like, what does that mean? Like, what is sales? Like, I had no concept. And he was like, bro, in his Australian accent, and he was like, sales is just like, you just have to give people an offer that they would feel stupid to say no to. And for some reason, because it was like, probably because it was so early on in my career, just like imprinted on me. But it's something that I've really kept, is like, if you have to be an amazing salesman to make the business work, the business is broken. And so the way to make any person be able to sell is to give an offer that's amazing, and then let the business model and the systems and processes back up why it's so great. You know what I mean? And then let the business do the work of keeping the person and getting lifetime value, right? And so I'm a big fan of ridiculous guarantees to get people, unbelievably happy with the experience that they're about to have. There's with your guys's, I mean, I would be doing two-step stuff, which is I'd be closing $100 appointments, like pay $100 just to meet with this person because she's so amazing, like she's booked out with celebrities all day long. So I would position her, and then I would go in and just have an assumed close for like $2,000 for like extensions and whatever. That's the angle I would take. That's a more sales oriented process. The other way, from an offer standpoint, and this is where it gets a little bit more difficult for me to like dive in, is like, you have to look at all the different ancillary services that exist and think like, what thing could I offer for free that I could then upsell other portions that they really can't live without? So I'm still free here. So an example would be, there's like a weight loss clinic that I know. I'm not sharing names because they're whatever, but they would run free weight loss, just free, like free. It was a clinic. And so what would happen is they would come in and they're like, we'll continue. I mean, it was like $5 a week, something, nothing, right? And as long as you continue to buy food from us or buy bars from us or whatever, then you're good to go. And so
where the margin would be anyway.
Right. So they gave the service away, but then they monetized another aspect of it. Right. And so it's like, it's just like, how creative can we get with the offerings so that people have a cool offer that's going to generate a lot of traction, but then how are we going to monetize it? Right. Yeah. And so I think everyone thinks two-dimensionally, like if they're a chiropractor, it's like, well, I just got to give free back cracks. It's like, okay, what else do you sell? You know what I mean? Like, what else is this person who has a bad back coming in with? They probably have pain. It's probably because they're overweight. It's probably because they, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, let's take a couple more thought processes and think, how can we make an offer that's going to be, I call them a splinter stack, but basically most people have like one thing, because most people are like, they want to compete on best value, which is the dumbest thing in the world because no one understands it, right? It's like, we do this and this and this and this, and it's all included, you know, or whatever, right? But they don't say that, right? They're like, this is what we do, right? But instead, you should peel off each of these things, right? And then name them as like bonuses for this thing. So like you could have like, up crack your back, and as a bonus, you're gonna get this and this and this and this and this. And then it seems like you're stacking shitloads of value when it was stuff you were gonna do anyways, right? Yeah. And so it's like, how can we be creative, you know, in how we're making offers?
And that's how you get
the right offer. You find the right offer, and you're golden.
Lastly, on that point, I think you and I probably have a similar. I've certainly, it's one of my challenges I'm trying to work through anyway with my clients, and certainly in the industry as a whole. And I think I've heard a lot of you talking about the same thing. Is about breaking the limiting beliefs around this particular topic. About like, no, that doesn't work in the industry. And I know, just like even right now, people would be when I upload this, people listen to this and go, no, that wouldn't work for our industry. That's a gym thing. And I'm like, I reckon it's probably most gym owners would say right now it doesn't work for the gym industry there, but you're coming along and disrupting the industry and going, well, actually, we've just been doing it all wrong. And I think that's kind of the message I want to do in our industry as well, because traditionally, like people are technicians, right? They're really good at hair or they're really good at beauty, but they're not really good at marketing, not really good at sales. And because of that fear factor of learning that, they don't do it. And so what do? They do the basic stuff that everybody else is just doing. They just go, oh, well, I'll just keep putting an offer out there that's, you know, get a free facial or not a free facial, but get a facial for $89 and hopefully it'll convert. And then they say marketing doesn't work. But I really love what you're doing because you're disrupting patterns and disrupting what people's beliefs are around marketing and offers.
Yeah, I mean, if there's eyeballs, like marketing works, period. You know, I had a chiropractor here and he's like, yeah, I tried Facebook ads. They don't work. And I was like,
yeah.
It's like, I tried marketing. It doesn't work. I'm like, what? You know, like I tried marketing. I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? Like,
I ran an ad once.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it was probably like a boosted post of a picture of him that didn't have any copy. Weren't offering any. You know what I mean? Like it just whatever. But I mean, if you're listening to this, I mean, you don't know who I am, but there's so much more than you're letting yourself do. I mean, one of the things that I tell the gyms is like, when we all started, we looked around at what everyone else is doing and said, cool, I'll charge that. But the secret that no one knows is that everyone else is broke. So why the fuck would you copy them?
Yeah, right.
Right? Just being real. And so that's the fundamental issue, right? Is that most people are broke. Most people, not some, most people. And so you talked about the gyms that closed, 80% of them are still open and the person's head is just barely above water.
Yeah.
And they've been that way for 6 years, right? And every day they wonder why they're still going to work.
They
right?
still think like by doing the same thing, they're going to get a different result tomorrow.
Right. And hoping for a corner to come that you're going to turn that never does. Yeah. Right. If I just had 5 more clients, if I just had 10 more, whatever. And the thing is, it never comes. Right.
Yeah.
They don't change their actions and they don't change their beliefs. So, yeah.
Yeah. Finally, let's wrap this up. Three things any business owner should be doing right now to help grow their business. Just real summary.
Yeah. 3 things. Well, get more clients, increase your prices, and get people to buy more times. Those are the 3 things that someone should do, you know, but if people aren't doing that, then I'm a big rule by metrics. So like, if you don't know what your attrition is, can't improve it. If you don't know what your average ticket is, can't improve it. If you don't know what your lifetime value is, can't improve it. And so it's like, if you don't even know those things, then what 3 things can I tell you to do? So do all that first. And then once you at least have metrics, you can start moving them. Yeah,
I love it. Love it. Alex Hormozi, thank you for joining me this morning. It's been a lot of fun. It's awesome to tap into your mind, man. I've been, like I said, been following you online and watching your journey, and the growth is absolutely nuts. And so what is next? I know you got to go, but what is next? What's around the corner for?
Well, in 8 weeks you'll know.
Right, we'll leave that. So watch this space. So anybody then who does want to follow the journey, where do they catch up? Where do they follow you?
You can go to. There's 2 places you can go. Actually, there's a bunch of places you can go. Well, can't go to the group because that's a gym group. You can go to alexspodcast.com if you want to listen to the journey from a podcast standpoint. If you want to learn the secrets that your competitors don't have because they're not going to read a gym book, but it's brick and mortar service and 90% of it is completely translatable, you can go to alexsbook.com and pick up Gym Secrets, Gym Launch Secrets. I should know the cover.
The new cover.
Book, right? It's a free book. Pay the cover or cover the shipping or whatever it is, and we will send one to you. But that'll teach you some phone sales stuff, what you can do over the phone, how you can close appointments paid. Because believe me, people don't want to give credit card over the phone at the gym the same way they don't want to give credit card over the phone for a salon. It's the same shit. So we have all those overcomes, and you can use those and make more money.
That's amazing.
And you can follow me at Hormozi and Instagram.
What was that?
At Hormozi is my Instagram handle. So
at Hormozi, yeah, you can get to check out more of the moustache. She's gonna hate me for saying this actually, but my wife is a huge fan of moustaches. And so when I posted yesterday on my Instagram story, and I was like, I was promoting the podcast and stuff, she straight away wrote me a message. She's like, that moustache. I was like, calm yourself. So anyway, Alex, thanks for joining me. I really, really appreciate your time, man. I know you're super busy, and for you to take the time out with me this morning, well, in the afternoon for you there, is a huge honor. And I'm just super stoked. I know a lot of people, like you said, even though we spoke about gym stuff, a lot of the information you said today is just brick and mortar business, small business, growth, marketing, sales. It's all the same stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right, thank you so much, brother.
And no problem. So, and if you've loved this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you share and subscribe. And if you're listening to it on the podcast, also please make sure you subscribe and take a screenshot and share it and tag Hormozi in it and tag myself as well. And if you have any questions of Alex, I'm sure you'll be more than happy to answer them.
Rock and roll.
Alex, thanks for your time, buddy.
Hey guys, if you love this video, please make sure you hit the subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. And also, if you have not yet got your tickets for Salon GrowthCon 2019, make sure you do. Go to the link that's in the description below because I do not want you to miss out on this amazing event.